on domestic violence?
Well, I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and I didn't really realize that I was in a domestic violence relationship because no one had really had a conversation with me. I didn't know about it. No one ever really talked to me about it. And when you hear about things like that in the newspaper or having a rally, I just didn't feel connected to that issue. And so once I realized, I think I read Oprah or something, and they talked about the symptoms and they talked about some of the characteristics of it, and I realized, oh, that's what this is. And so once I was able to get out of that situation, and it was, there was some drama involved in it, but I tried to talk to people about it, and particularly women, and they were saying, well, just be quiet about it. Don't talk about it. Just deal with it. And he was a great guy. He was involved in the community, and I said, that's what I went through wasn't right. I was on the verge of having a nervous breakdown. It was I was having panic attacks. It was he had sucked all the happiness out of our family. Because I was a single mom, and I met him with 3 children, and my children were not happy. I mean, all the happiness was gone, and I said, this wasn't a good thing. This wasn't right, and so I decided that I wanted to be able to educate people like myself about this issue. And so, going back to what I mentioned about being a creative griot, I used poetry, and so I wrote a book. Poetry, and I also recorded my poetry and some songs in a CD, and then I wrote a play called Tangoing with Tornadoes, and that's the whole series of what this comes under. So my book and my CD and my play all are titled Tangoing with Tornadoes, and I also this year published a novel called Tangoing with Tornadoes, because I wanted to create all different kinds of opportunities for people to understand the message that it can happen to anyone, and in all kinds of relationships, not just between male and females, but also in same-sex relationships. It can happen among siblings, where they can, because people sometimes growing up think calling names and putting people down is a normal thing, but it really isn't. And the whole bullying issue tends to lead to domestic violence in adult relationships. And domestic violence can also happen in teen relationships, and so there needs to be a lot more understanding about this issue in the community. And so that's why I felt like I needed to take this valley that I had gone through and find beauty in it. And in a lot of ways, that's what I've done. I've mined my sorrows for beauty.
Oh.
Yes, because all of us go through something and deal with something that can be traumatic or very heartbreaking, and I feel like there is always a reason or always something beautiful that can come out of those experiences. And so going through domestic violence was a very traumatic thing, but out of it came some really beautiful art and opportunities to have these discussions in ways that hadn't been done before.
Okay.
What was your childhood like?
That's a very good question, because most people assume that the way that I am now was the way that I always was, and that's really far from the truth. When I was growing up, I was a middle child of 8 biological children and then another adopted child. I was incredibly shy, and I didn't talk to people very much, and I never really felt very worthy or heard. Not by, because my parents were actively involved in community stuff, and so we were latchkey kids. And so I had 2 older brothers and 2 older sisters. My sisters ignored me most my childhood, but my brothers were very mean, and so it was really hard growing up, because they would find ways to and to pick on me